And welcome everybody to our Wednesday 12:30 class. We are working in book number 15, Simple Songs. This is an intermediate level class. I am starting to introduce some more advanced features like advanced chords. Remember, that is always optional. You don't need to put them in ever. But it will add some spice to your music. And like I always say, if you learn one chord, one new chord in the song, it's going to start to come naturally to you. And the more stuff you learn, the better it keeps your brain. And that's what we're doing this for. We're doing it for our love, for our spirit, but we're also doing it to play brain games, to keep our brains sharp, because people who play music never get old. Did you know that? We never get old. Nope.
Just one question for you, Dawn, before you
Yeah.
get going. Your conductor magic class that you do on Tuesday afternoons, is that recorded?
It's not going to go to, no, it's recorded, but it's not going to be going to onto YouTube. No.
If we miss it, we miss it.
But what you missed, I'll tell you what you missed. You missed a pretty much an exact review of what we did the first day, because of the problem with the two links. We had two links instead of one that went up, and so only half the people that wanted to get on the first day could get on, and the other half couldn't find it. And so that problem has been corrected, and Robert asked me to pretty much do that class over again. So the information was the same. The songs were different. I did Ode to Joy, which is the first song in the book, and I also touched on, but I'm going to do a lot more with it again, was Love Me Tender. So we looked at Love Me Tender, but that's all. Everything else was stuff that you got the first week. So you didn't really miss anything, David.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Okay, let's get started with My Funny Valentine. My Funny Valentine is a show tune from the 1937 Rodgers and Hart musical Babes in Arms. I have not seen that musical, so I can't tell you much about it. It was introduced by a child star, Mitzi Green. She was only 17 at the time. The song became a popular jazz standard, appearing in over 1,300 albums and performed by over 600 artists. That's a lot. That says a lot about this song. One of the artists was Chet Baker, and it became his signature song. This was also done by Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Bing Crosby, Miles Davis, Barbra Streisand, Sarah Vaughan, Lena Horne, and Michael Bublé, just to name a very few. So over 600 artists performing this song. I could be here till next Sunday going through the list of artists. It is a standard song. The key of this song, this was a question we already had. What key is this song written in? The rule of thumb, which rules get broken, is 99 times out of 100, the last chord of the song is the key of the song. Well, why is that important? Just for your introduction. Now, here's where you have to check. If you go to the beginning of the song and it's a minor chord, now you have to think, is that the relative minor of the F chord? Well, how would I know? Well, if you're a music theory person, you know that it's the same scale. Oh boy, like you guys really care, right? The same scale. So if I play the F scale, there's one flat in the scale. If I play the D minor scale, it's the same scale starting on a different note. Now, why do you need to know that? You don't. But take a look at the two letters in the D minor easy play chord. It's D and F. So that second note that you play in the D minor easy play chord is the relative major of that chord. They're relatives, they're sisters. Why? Because they share the same scale. They share the same scale. So which intro do you use? Well, that really depends on which background you're using. You're going to try both. You're going to try an F major with just the F, and you're going to try a D minor. Most of the time, the minor chord in that set of relative majors and minors will be the one you want to use. You want to set that minor tone. That whole first part of the song is in the key of D minor. And then it goes to F on the second page, and it ends up on that upbeat, happier note. So most of the time, you will want to start the introduction with a D minor chord. But again, listen for what the introduction does for your particular background that you've chosen. Because sometimes the major chord actually does introduce it better. So you have to try. But like I said, most of the time it will be the minor chord. I have chosen to start this on easy 4/4, soft and easy, or also smooth. It's also your smooth full band, and at 72 beats per minute. And I'm just on the rhythm preset 0, which is piano and strings on top. Let's try the introduction, first of all starting with an F, and see what happens. It was okay, but it didn't really make the mood of the song to get you started. So let's try it again using a D minor chord for the introduction. Oh, drama. Yes. In my opinion, the D minor was much better. It set the tone, it set the mood, which that whole first page is in the key of D minor. So you might just want to make a little note for yourself, intro in D minor. And you're going to have that when you start with a minor chord and end with a major chord. That's very common practice, because they're changing the emotions from a somber emotion to a more uplifting emotion at the end of the song.
Sorry, Dawn, I just got home. What song are you doing?
We are doing My Funny Valentine, my dear Inez.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And start your intro with D minor. That's as far as we've gotten so far. Okay, let's go for some extra chords. And remember, extra chords are optional. If you're not there yet, if you feel like writing them in, write them in very lightly in pencil, and you can ignore them if you wish. Or if you feel like going to have a cup of coffee right now and ignore them completely, that's fine too. All right, the D minor is good. Make that next A, if you wish, an A7, which would be G and A. The next D minor can be a D minor 7, which would be C, D, F, chickens, dinosaurs, and fish. The G chord is okay, or you can substitute. Now this one is completely optional. It's a 4-fingered chord. B minor 7 flat 5. It's actually easier to play than it is to write. So your notes in that are B butterfly, D dinosaur, F fish, and A alligator. And if you just dip your finger back below the C, and I know I've told you don't ever do that, but sometimes when you get these advanced chords, it works very well. So this is what that chord sounds like. You could just play G, or you could play that fancy B minor 7 flat 5. Oh, now there's a spicy chord. The second line, B flat is good, G minor is good, G and B flat. Then you may play the A7 chord for 2 measures, or you may substitute for the A7 E minor 7 flat 5. It's another 4-fingered chord, and it's just a delicious chord, or I don't even know any other way to say it. I love those minor 7 flat 5s. Your notes are, let's see if I can get it, D, E, G, B flat. After a while, your fingers just start to go there. Dinosaurs, elephants, gorillas, and flat butterflies. Or just play A7. Then you're going to get to A7 anyway. The last measure of that line over that whited in whole note, put your A7 back in. So instead of just having A7, you're going to have this. Wow, is that powerful? That's nice. Okay, third line. The D minor is good. You may put a 7 on the A, which is G and A. You may put a 7 on the second D minor that's there, so it would be C, D, F, or just play D minor, and the G is fine just the way it is. Next line, the B flat. If you're going to learn any new chord, this would be the one I would suggest because it's easy to learn. B flat major 7, B flat, capital M-A-J 7, and your notes are A and B flat right next to each other. The rules for major 7s are the letter minus 1. So A and B flat. It's a jazz chord. So instead of just B flat, you're going to have this. It's a pretty chord. It's nice to play. The rest of the line, you're good. G minor is G and B flat. B flat minor is D flat and B flat. Dinosaur flat and butterfly flat. You may play C or C7, which is C and B flat. At the top of the second page, now we go into the bridge. Make that first F an F major 7, F capital M-A-J 7. The rule is the letter minus 1, so your two notes are E and F. E and F. That's good for 2 counts. Beat 3 over the F quarter note for the word less. G minor, gorilla minor, G and B flat, or you may put a 7 on it, which would be F, G, and B flat. Remember, 7s are optional. Second measure, first beat over the F half note for the word Greek, A minor, C and A, or if you wish, A minor 7, which is C, G, and A. And then cross out the C and replace it with G minor, gorilla minor, G and B flat, or you may put a 7 on that, F, G, and B flat. Next measure, the F chord is good for 2 counts. Beat 3 over the F quarter note for little, G minor, G and B flat, or G minor 7 if you wish. Last measure of that first line over the F for weak, the half note. A minor, C and A, or A minor 7, C, G, and A. Cross out the C and replace it with G minor or G minor 7. You see a little bit of a pattern there? Let's go to the second line. Make that very first F an F major 7, F capital M-A-J 7, and play E and F for 2 counts. Beat 3 over the F quarter note for the word it, A or A7. A7 is G and A. Second measure over the F half note, D minor or D minor 7. D and F or C, D, and F. Third measure, make that B flat, a B flat major 7, B flat, capital M-A-J 7. Your 2 notes are A and B flat. Now, here's another one of those four-fingered chords that's completely optional. You can stay on the B flat, or you can play, and it's the last measure of line 2, first beat over the whited in half note, E minor, 7, flat, 5. Your notes are D dinosaur, E elephant, G gorilla, and flat butterflies, B flat. Or skip it. No worries. The A7 is good. The next line, D minor, D and F. A, you may play A, you may play A7, G and A. Third measure, D minor, you may put a 7 on it. C, D, F. And the G is fine just as it is. Fourth line, make that B flat, a B flat major 7. Capital MAJ7, and your two notes are A and B flat. The A7 is good for the entire measure, or you may substitute for beat 1, E minor 7, flat 5, ooh, for 2 counts, and then over the E half note, beat 3, put your A7 back in. Or skip it. Either way. The D minor, put a 7 on it if you wish. C, D, and F. Beat 3 of that measure. C sharp 7. C sharp 7 is C sharp and B butterfly. Or just play C sharp. Cross out the F and replace it with C minor, C and E flat, or C minor 7, which is C, E flat, and B flat. Beat 3 of that measure, we're still in that fourth line, is a B butterfly or a B7, which would be A and B. Remember, the 7s are always the letter -2. Major 7s are the letter -1. And the 7s are hanging chords, and the major 7s are jazz chords. Last line, make that B flat. A B flat major 7. Capital MAJ7, your two notes are A and B flat. Cross out the C and replace it with G minor, gorilla minor, or gorilla minor 7 for 2 counts. Beat 3 over the G half note. Put your C or C7 back in, and that's the lead-in chord for F, and you just end it on plain old F. And then you can hit your ending button. Okay, I'm going to play this on soft and easy, easy 4/4, which is smooth full band with your piano and strings, and halfway through, when we get to the top of the second page, I am going to add a golden harp, just to add a little bit to the background. Introduction, D minor. No roadmap, so it's pretty easy. You just play through it. If you'd like to play it a second time, that would be fine. I think I would put in a great big drum solo or a long fill-in, and then if you wanted to, you could actually transpose up half a step to make it a little bit different. So these are just some arranging tips, and you all have ideas about how it should be arranged. All right, any questions right now?
Where did you add the golden harp?
I added the golden harp after I played that C chord on the bottom of page 70. I
Got it.
reached up and added the golden harp right there. So is your
Thank-
figure so that when I played that F chord, that golden harp comes in.
Thank you.
And again, if you didn't like it, it's okay. You don't have to like everything I like. I'm just trying to give you some suggestions so that you can make some different arrangements for your songs and so that it's not the same all the way through. And that's just one way. Now, I could have just taken my left hand or my right hand and put it on the bottom keyboard and played a different sound. And it comes up a flugelhorn, so I could have done that. Or I could have done both. So it's whatever works for you, for the song, and you can play it differently every time. That's the cool thing about being a musician and changing and tweaking and doing your songs. You might feel different about it tomorrow and want to try it some other way. All right, let's do some fingering, and then I'll play it on, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. And I'll play it on another background. I've actually got a couple of them chosen. I think you'll like them all. I won't play the whole song, but I think you'll like some of the other backgrounds. Just about anything's going to work as a 4/4 background for this. Just don't play it on a waltz. All
Daun,
right. Yes.
The tempo, it sounded slow.
Sounded a little slow. It's 72. If it sounded slow, then absolutely, you'd want to put it up to 80, 85, whatever works for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Again, tempo is completely subjective. And some days you feel like playing it a little slower. Some day you've had a little bit too much coffee, and so you got to play it a little faster. And it just depends on how you are reacting that day to that song. So don't worry, you can change your tempo at any time to make it feel right for you. All right, let's do fingering. D1, E2, F3, E2, F3, E2, D1, E2, F3, E2, F3, E2, D1, E2, F1, circle it, you're doing a thumb tuck. C5, B flat 4, A3, G2. Third line, F1, G2, A3, G2, A3, G2, F1, G2, A3, G2, A3, G2. Last line on that page, F1, G2, A1, circle it, thumb tuck. E4, now you might want to put a little arrow on that note. Your tendency is wanting to put a 5 there. Don't do it. 4 on the E. D3, C2, B1, here's why. B flat 3, circle it, it's a crossover. If you started with a 5, you'd end up with that 1 having to hit that B flat, and that would hurt, and we never want our fingers to hurt. We try to keep the thumb off the black keys in the right hand. So B flat 3 circled, that's a crossover. The last two notes on the page, A2, G1. Top of the second page, C5, F2, F2, E1, F2, F2, E1, D5, F1, F1, E2 with a circle, cross it over, F3, check mark. You have a comma there, so it's a good place to take a breath with your fingers and reposition them. The F quarter note is a 2, E1, second line high E5, F1, F1, E2 with a circle, cross it over, F3, G1, circle it, tucking it under, A2, high D5. That's a little tricky in there, so if my tuck unders and crossovers do not work for you, please feel free to find something that works with your own fingers and erase mine, put your own in. But this works out pretty well, I think. The last note on that line is an E, make it a 2. Third line, D1, E2, F3, E2, F3, E2. F1, circle it, thumb tuck. G2, A3, G2, A3, G2. The next phrase, you can do this 2 different ways, the whole next line. If you start with a D2, you got to put a check mark at the end of that line, by the way. Put a check mark at the end of line 3. High D, 2, E3, F4, E3, F4, E3, F4. If you wish, you could start with that D being a 3 and just follow your fingers and it'll be fine. Last line, F1, G2, A3, G2, A3, G2, and F1. If the only thing new that you try are those major 7 chords, you are 100% successful. If you decide to play the whole song just as it is without any of the new chords, that's excellent just as well. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit of it on smooth piano 4/4, which fills in the background a little differently. Just do a phrase. Okay, now I'm going to switch it to Jazz Club. Jazz Club gives it a completely different loungy feeling because we're slowing it down. I'm still on 72. Gave it a completely different feeling. And then I'm going to play it on one of my go-to backgrounds, Strings 101. So completely different flavors for all of those, and you will find 100 other ones that are in your organ. So that's what I want you to do for homework, is try different rhythms once you find a tempo that works for you, and freeze your tempo, lock your tempo, and just go to different backgrounds and try them and see what you think. Because this song, it can be done 1,000 different ways. Any questions?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Page 2, line 4, would you go over your chords after, or on the third measure, please?
On which line? Line 4?
Line 4.
Line 4, first B flat is a B flat major 7. The
Okay.
second measure, cross out the A and make it an E minor 7 flat 5, or just leave it on A7. The third beat of that measure over time, over the E half note A7. Now here's your 4 chords that I changed to for holding that F. The D minor can be a D minor 7. Beat 3 is a C sharp 7, or just plain old C sharp. Cross out the F and replace it with C minor, or you can make it a C minor 7, which is C, E flat, B flat. And beat 3 is a B7. That just makes a very beautiful, beautiful movement while you're holding that F. Going to that B flat. Just
That
real.
leads into my question.
Last chord is a B7?
The last chord on line 4 is a B7, which is A
Got it.
and B.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody else?
So yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
My music is a mess. When I write in all of these
Mhm.
chords,
Mhm.
would you consider at some point taking a part of a lesson or actually doing a lesson to teach us how to write these chords the proper way and
Oh,
fit
okay.
them in and like any tips that we can squeeze things in and still make it readable? Because that, when I go to play,
Yeah.
um,
You know
it
what I
takes
do?
me,
I don't like, if I've got a chord that's completely foreign to me, like when I did Spooky in the concert, I added a brand new chord. I added this C7 sharp the 9. I added that chord and I had no idea how to play it before. So that was kind of a last minute addition because it was in the original. So what I did is I wrote in C7 sharp the 9, but then off to the side in the margin or down at the bottom where it's not noticeable, I wrote in the letters. And so my letters were there, they were just not blocking my regular music. So I just made it a point to learn the chord. And I wrote the letters in order on the bottom or off to the margin so that you knew they were there if you needed them, if you forgot. But play that section of the song enough so that you do learn those chords. Because yeah, it will make a mess. If you're writing in every single A and B flat, it's a B flat major. If you're writing in every single letter on top of the new chords, yeah, it's going to be a mess.
yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
But I also write them differently every time I write it. It's like sometimes the flat's up here and sometimes it's down here and
Oh,
sometimes it's a capital and sometimes it's a not. I need to learn a standard a standard way of
Okay.
doing it.
Okay, all right. And I'm glad you're actually trying some of the new chords. But yeah, you don't want to mess up the music too terribly much. So I would just write in the chord, and when you're writing in minors, it's always a little m, a little m. So like an E minor would be E little m, you know, with the little humps. When you're writing in major, it's a capital M. And then I always, to distinguish between, sometimes my little m's and big M's look the same. I always write my major 7, M with a capital, AJ7. I write in the MAJ so that I really know what it is. Because sometimes just a capital or a small is not going to indicate quick enough what it is. Okay? And yes, that's why I try to give you the rules. The major 7s are always the letter -1. Try to just memorize that formula so you don't have to keep writing in all the little letters of what actually are in those chords so that you can get them. And only learn one chord at a time. That's the easiest way to do it. Another way to do it would be to have a second sheet next to your music. And when I call out what the chord, what it is, what the letters, E minor 7, flat 5, write that in your book. But then over to your side on your next piece of paper, just go straight across and write in the letters of that chord. That way you're not writing it in your book. See what I'm saying? That might help.
Hey, Dawn, I have a question,
Yes.
and I discovered it today playing something totally different.
Okay.
But the chord was a a D augmented,
Okay.
and the letters are D, F sharp, and A sharp.
Correct. Correct.
But put that in because it doesn't come up D augmented in your window.
It
At least
does.
mine.
It should.
Well, mine.
If you play D, F sharp, and A sharp, which is the same as a B flat, it should
Correct.
come up D augmented in your window. If it does not, then you're either A, playing the wrong notes, your fingers are hitting something different, and that's just an accidental, I'm bumping something different,
Okay.
or you're playing it in a different order. And it's okay to play augmented chords in a different order because the tonality will be the same. What I mean by that is if you play D augmented and put that B flat on the bottom, it's the same tonality, but the bass note changes. Here's a D augmented. Put the B flat on the bottom.
Then it's a B augmented.
It's a B flat augmented,
Okay.
correct, because the bass note is.
Okay, well, I must have been hitting something wrong because I know those are the chords and I'm thinking,
Mhm.
well, that is not what it's saying in my window.
Check your fingers. Yep, check your fingers. An
Thank
augmented,
you.
an augmented chord will always have the letter that you play on the bottom is going to show up in your window. And the bass note will always be the letter that is on the bottom of that chord. And again, you have to just use your ears. And some people say, oh, there's a huge difference between this and this. Okay, well, if it bothers you, then, play the one that sounds the best to your ear. Because tonality-wise, is the augmented chords are the same when you change the order.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
questions. Wow, we're getting advanced here in this class. Wow. This is supposed to be an intermediate class, and we're getting pretty advanced. I love it. You guys are pushing yourselves, and that's a great thing. All right. So, but I don't want anybody else who's saying, whoops, that's a little bit over my head. Don't worry about it. You're still in the intermediate class. Everything we just did is completely optional, so no worries. Let's turn the page to,
Beginners.
let's turn the page to Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. Besides, you're never going to have to play this for our recital, so don't worry. You only play it for yourself. Oh, What a Beautiful Morning we have had in one of the Lowry songbooks. This is the opening song from the musical Oklahoma, which premiered on Broadway in 1943. It was the first song of Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical collaboration to be heard by theater audiences. I thought that was actually very interesting. So why do you need to know that? Well, if you ever go on Jeopardy now, you know the answers. That's why we give you the trivia. So there are noteworthy recordings that include Bing Crosby in 1943, the same year that the musical came out. Frank Sinatra, 1943, the same year that the musical came out. Ray Charles did this, so a completely different style. James Taylor did this, a completely different style. Rosemary Clooney, Peggy Lee, and Nelson Eddy. So, if you want to hear some different stylings, go to YouTube and listen to them. But as you can see, it's 3/4. That means this is a waltz. Song setup actually brought it up to 120 or 128, depending on which organ you're on. I think it's better a little slower. I think 110 or even down to 100 is very good on this. Any waltz will work. Your country waltz is very nice. So if you're on the easy organs, your country waltz would be your, I believe it's your piano. It's country pianist. Or the country waltz is usually waltz number 1 and waltz and its variation 1, and if you have the bigger organs, it just says country waltz. Normally, that comes up to 80. But guess what? You can put it wherever you want. Between 100 and 120. You got to speed it up a little bit. Let's do the road map. The road map is the first verse, all of page 1, page 2, the first 3.5 lines, and then you see that first ending, the bracket, with the ending of that has 2 dots, a thin line, and a thick line. You can make that a highlighted color because that's a repeat dot and it's sending you back to the repeat dots that are facing in the opposite direction at the beginning of the song. So there you have a thick line, a thin line, and 2 dots. And you're doing the second verse, all the cattle. If you read the lyrics, it will always take you where you need to go. So then you finish the first page, play the second page. When you get to line 4, right there in the middle, instead of playing the first ending, you just want to jump down and play the second ending. Skip the first ending, play the second ending. As far as chords, I am only adding 2. So you only have to put in 2 new chords. All right, let's go to line 3 of the first page. You have a D minor, that's fine. Then you have a measure with no chords. Put one in. Put in a B flat minor, butterfly flat minor, D flat and B flat. The only other new chord I'm going to give you is optional. It's at the top of the second page. You have a G minor. You may play G minor or you may play C diminished, which is a 2-fingered chord, and that is C and F sharp. The rule for diminished chords are the letter plus 6. That's the mathematical formula. Okay, I'm going to play it for you first, then we'll do some fingering. This is actually the song setup for the beautiful symphony. It came up to Doris's 3/4, and it came up at 128. I slowed it down to 120. Okay, so we're going to try it at 120, and then I'll play it the second time on country waltz, slowed down even more. But this is song setup. Okay, and then you would go back and play it again. And I'm going to play it this time on a country waltz, and I actually slowed it down to 105. So here we go with the second time through. This gives it a little more of that Oklahoma feeling. microphone is right in that slot where I missed my finger, so I couldn't see it. Hate it when that happens. Okay, let's do some fingering. C5, B flat 4, A3, G2, F1, G2, A3, B flat 4, A3, C5, C5, B flat 4, A3, G2, F1, G2, A3, B flat 4, A3, F1, G2, A3, G2, F1, G2, A3, B flat 4, C5. You might want to put an arrow on this B flat, make it a 3. A2, D5. You want to be able to reach up to that high D. D5, 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 and all the C's are 4s. If your fourth finger doesn't feel like working, put a 3 finger on it and just play all those C's all the way across and all the way the first 2 measures at the top of the second page. When you get to the measure where you start, oh, what a beautiful morning, you're going to have to put a check mark after the word sky. So it's C4, 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 check mark. C5, A3, E1, F2, A3, C4, E flat 5, D4, check mark, lift your hand. C5, A3, E1, F2, A3, C5, G2. Next line, C5, A3, E1, F2, A1 with a circle, C2, E4, F5. Next line, F5, C2, A1. The next E can either be 4 or 5. They both work. B flat 2, G1. The first ending is F2 with a circle. You're crossing it over. Your pickup notes are C5 and B flat 4. The second ending is F2 with a circle. It's a crossover. G3, check mark. F5, C2, A1. The E can either be 4 or 5. They both work. B flat 2, G1, and F2 with the circle as a crossover. Any questions? This one's pretty cut and dried, and we have had this one before. So this one should actually be fairly easy to play, but it gets tricky on that second page. So look out for your intervals, look out for your spacing. But you don't have any silly chords that you really need to worry about. This is all, it's just pretty much the chords that are there. All right, let's see what we have coming up. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're perfect. Good. All right, the next song is Over the Rainbow. I know I did that one in a different class. We will redo it in this class because I'm going to keep it fairly easy. And I don't know if I should do one song or 2. What do you guys want? 1?
2.
2? Okay. The Rainbow Connection. We've had this in other classes too, and this one's not all that hard. Yeah, we can do both of those. So the next 2, the Rainbow Connection and Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So 2 different rainbow songs. That'll work. Don't forget tonight at 6:30 is Zoom Joe Fontesha on the easy P7, which is a hybrid piano organ. And let's see what else is going on. At 2 o'clock today, I am doing my in-store workshop for Inspires, Rialtos, Journeys, and Fanfare people can show up for that. Or if anybody's interested in purchasing one of the above organs, please come in and get some information. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. And we will see you on the next Zoom. Thank you. Love you guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dawn. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Dawn.
Bye.